Good afternoon, everyone. The attendees are coming in. We have 3 so far. Just wait for a little bit more, then I will start the session. Okay, welcome everyone. I see Eric, I see Lovetta, I see Roland, I see Theo. Christine, welcome everyone. Please check in within the chat if you're able to, just say hi in the chat if you are able to hear us. Okay, you're able to see us as well. All right. So welcome to part 2 of the session on budgets and finance management. So today we still have the same presenter, Mr. Francis Kamo from World Vision Zambia. I will reintroduce him again. For those of us who were around, who were part of the session on Tuesday, we met him. He took us through the introduction to budgeting. So again, Mr. Francis Kamo is a business and markets development specialist. Currently, he's working on a project called the Transforming Household Resilience Project, that's Thrive in short for World Vision Zambia. He has been with World Vision for 8 years in various roles before taking up this role. So most of his roles have been under livelihood. His academic qualification is within the agribusiness management. So he holds a bachelor's degree in agribusiness management. Apart from that, he also he coaches and mentors most smallholder farmers and SMEs, that is small to medium enterprises, to ensure that they are transformed and have improved resilience and livelihood in various communities. Above all, he is an entrepreneur and director at the company he registered. So he's got a registered company within Zambia called Kamo Lukundo General Dealers. He's also a smallholder farmer as well. He grows vegetables and he also rears livestock. So he'll take us through the session today. But before that, I wanted to remind everyone, I know you're in the WhatsApp group as participants, but you're also on the Facebook Academy page. Just to remind everyone that at the end of the Academy in the last week, we're going to have pitch presentation, and everyone is invited to sign up for that. The deadline is tomorrow, 30th September. So the eligibility is that you would have participated in the Academy. You have 80% participation in the Academy. You need to record a 1 to 3 minutes video of your idea, whether it's a business for profit idea or CBO or NGO idea that you would want to win the cash prize for. So please go through the WhatsApp group. There's a document which was posted there. Success has been advertising that to give you all the rules of the pitch. So please sign up, and the presentations will happen in the last week of the Academy. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Francis for him to take us through today's session. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Phoebe, for the great introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, team. And I'm glad to join you this lovely afternoon from my end. I can see, I think we have about 27 attendees. And today, as she has mentioned, today actually we understand that one of the key aspects in entrepreneurship actually is to do with record keeping. So today, I think for those that attended last week presentation, I emphasized, or we interacted on the importance of budgeting. And also today, we also want to look at another key aspect, which is also record keeping. I must mention to you that when you are in entrepreneurship, I think there are about 3 to 4 stages. Phoebe, is team able to see my shared PowerPoint?
Yes, please, we're able to see.
Okay, wonderful. So I must mention that actually we're in entrepreneurship or any enterprise that you are looking at, based on, I think, the International Labour Organization standard is that we need to have about 3 key principal stages. One of them is what I think Phoebe talked about, issues to do with how you can generate your business idea. And I know most of you have generated the business ideas, which are multiple of them. And from there, you also selected which one or two amongst the list. And also the other one is to look at how you can start your business ideas once you come up with one, or you select one which is fine based on the profitability analysis. And the other one is actually on how do you actually improve after starting, how do you improve the business that you are venturing into? And then I think the last one, which is the 4th one, which actually for now from your end, I think we cannot talk much, which is expanding your business, on how you can expand. So today, actually, the key aspect of record keeping is coming from how you can improve your business idea. So based on what you already have as a team, today we'll just go through what can help you as you improve your business idea. And then I understand that also record keeping is not just a challenge also amongst the small, medium enterprise, but also it's a globe. Record keeping is quite a challenge. Most of the people just assume that most of the things are in my head, I know what I'm doing, and so forth. So I think I know we have about 28 participants here. All I want is, I think as we started the year around December through up to today, I believe most of the people did resolutions for 2022. And also what is important also is almost every year you need to update an aspect of net worth. For the people that are for those that want to commence some businesses using a loan, it being a grant, it is quite important that almost every day you write down what we call the net worth for that particular year, which is cumulative. But as I started the presentation, I would like, I think, to see from the 28, if most of you actually did the resolutions for 2022. And for those resolutions, I believe they have to be, there has to be a cost attached to it. So if you did the resolutions for 2022, and they are not just in your head, you wrote them down, I just want you to just put it could just be done on the chart. If you didn't, then you can just say not done, so that we know that at least from the 28 participants that we had on the 29th of September 2022, at least out of this 90%, we are able to keep records of the things or the plans that they had for that particular year, or those plans were just actually in the particular, we're just in the head. And then maybe later on, I can just ask Phoebe or Lisa to just request, maybe, though I know that might be confidential, but I think if they could ask one participant to just share what the resolutions or plans were for 2022. So we can just, I think, start pushing something rare in the chat to just say done or not done. That is the plans you had for 2022. Yeah, if they were put on paper. Thank you so much. So Phoebe has already introduced me. Today, I just want us to look at the same record keeping that will help us improve our businesses. So objectives for this particular presentation, actually one is to explain the benefits of record keeping in financial management, which actually we started looking at on Wednesday. We will also look at the other objective is actually to determine which records are important and should be kept. Demonstrate the use of simple book or record keeping tools that will enable us to just keep the information that is key, and also describe the use of business records to improve your business based on the financial outlook. And this will be actually broken down into 3 parts. The first part actually is keeping the business records. The second one is actually a simple system of keeping records. And the last one is actually look at the use of records to improve your business. that some of you have already started, some of you are already going to start. So part one, specific objectives for part one is one, to state what record keeping is, explain the benefits, as well as identify the important record of your business. So what is record keeping, team? And we just want to write, to state what record keeping is. I think writing down the important information in our businesses, in our organizations, is what we call record keeping. Not keeping down in our heads. That is not record keeping, but writing down. So the information that we need to write down include how much money your business receives. Very critical. You also need to know how much money your business pays out. Apart from receiving, how much money is going out. You need to have this particular information, and also how much has been sold on credit. It is quite important because this is not cash at hand. So you need to know how much money has been sold on credit and how much money is pending. And the details of agreements between your business and also its suppliers or customers. It could be in organizations. You also need to have a record keeping, maybe to do with partnerships. You also need this, the agreements, when you are supposed to pay, the people that you owe or the people that owes you, you need to have this particular information. Some of the benefits of actually keeping these records. One is it will help you to control your cash. Once you have the records, it will also help you to show you and others how your business is performing. Actually, no wonder you are doing the business proposals just to help us know from what you have written down, to help us know how your business is performing and also how it is going to perform based on the proposal. They need to also help you control your costs and manage them well. It will also help you plan for the future because based on the record, actually, you're able to make some reference and decide and also plan well for the future. It will also help you manage your assets very well. I think in accounts, there's what people call FIFO, LIFO, first in, first out, last in, first out. So all these you can decide based on the information that you have kept. Also, it is very key in business organization decision making. It will also help use as reference point, as I mentioned. For example, when you want to do quotation, deliver notes, received notes, tax clearance, and audit books. They are very important that you actually keep the records. Sometimes I think I remember, I'll give an example after this. Record keeping also help you know the cash inflow and the cash outflow. And also it will help you identify the market trends for the particular business that you are involved. It will also help an individual to acquire loans when it is required. If you don't have information, no wonder most of the people ask you to do the business plans so that they can make reference to whatever you are saying. And then they also ask you to do the pitching or the presentations just to make sure that whatever you put in the document or in the business plan is of critical and also is something that is you're able to, that is easy to implement. So the challenge is failure to actually keep records. For example, I would give you, there's one time I think that I was supposed to have submitted my tax to ZRA, and the deadline was on the 14th. I was thinking in my mind it was 15th. So I went to ZRA on the 15th and submitted. I thought it all ended. The other time I needed to get tax clearance, I was told actually you needed to pay about $50 penalty for failure to just keep record and do what is right by just missing it for a single day. So you can imagine from that was 2015. Since 2015 to date, I've never forgotten that date. So actually, those are some of the benefits of keeping records. If failure to keep records becomes very difficult, you may end up forgetting. Hence, paying penalties such as $50 by missing for a day. And no wonder you've seen, I think it could be global, where you see some companies or some businesses being closed down. It's because of some of the people failing to keep records when they are actually audited. So important business documents, one of them is actually cash transactions, which is key as it is one of our drivers in our businesses. You also need to keep details of our debtors and also our sales to enable you be able to understand and also make decisions based on that information. You also need to keep records of the costs. They are very important. Bank transactions is very important. Just that nowadays, most of the records are kept by the bank. They just help you, ask you to run the statement so that you can use it as reference. But before you do that, actually, sometimes even the bank might make mistakes. And it is important that you also keep these transactions so that you can be able to reconcile at some point. Agreements with the suppliers, as earlier mentioned, you also need to keep them. The assets, very important. Financial position, like the balance sheet. Most of the people just ask you to say, okay, give us the balance sheet so that we look at how much you are worth. Remember, initially I said most of the plans sometimes we just keep them in our heads. And also financials, financials need to look at your records, which is very critical, among others. So these are some of the important business records that everyone who is involved or is about to be involved or planning to venture into businesses need to keep. So I'll move to part 2. Maybe Phoebe. Yes, Phoebe, are we there?
Yes, please. We're okay.
Okay, wonderful. How many people have confirmed actually keeping or writing down their plans for 2022 on paper?
So far, I've only seen
out of the 32.
I've only seen 3 who've responded to
confirm that they have kept or have not. They have written down or have not written down.
So 1 of the 3. So now there are 4. 2 of them done, 2 of them not done.
Okay, great. But even those who have actually said not done, if you ask them, they are done in their heads. Just that they have not actually actualized it on the paper. So it's very important that we put every plan, every resolution for that particular on paper so that we can use it as reference. And also you have to put that in terms of net worth. You need to put how much is expected from whatever you have in terms of assets. And you also need to put or attach value to it. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to know that, okay, this particular person is worth so much. And most of the people, I think last week when we were talking about business proposals, some of the applications, they'll ask you if it is a loan to say, kindly attach some of the collaterals. And you also need to attach that same net worth document that will show in terms of liability and also collateral. So it is based on that document that others will be able to finance you. Very important. So part 2 is actually just look at the simple system of keeping records, and the sub-objectives for this one is actually 1, the name of the 3 most popular books, and also demonstrate the use of simple bookkeeping tools. Some people actually find it very difficult to just begin to write down, but if they have a simple tool that they can just actually fuse in and be able to keep the records, it becomes very important and also very easy for them. And that's why most of the people actually ask to say, do you have any tool that we can use as we do the record keeping? Luckily, we have, I think, most of the, there are some companies now that have actually made most of the record keeping, especially for enterprise, online. So it's just apps that you can upload on the phone and be able to enter or update some records on that. So cash transactions is actually one of the key aspects that we need to look at when you look at the most popular books. So cash is very important. You need the cash book, very, very, very important. And also it is important that creating and also creating the vouchers actually is very important. For example, here you've seen that it is important to actually write a receipt whenever or every time you receive money. It's very important that you write it down. For example, here you've seen, I think, as an example there on the 18th of October, tax, actually someone pays that much. Very important to record. And also the bus fare, for example, the 0.5 in way US, 0.5 US dollars by Moyo. So it is important that you have something that will help you write down and also ensure that you create and also connect the vouchers together. So the voucher is actually just a simple document or a simple paper that will be that will show, or in some entitlements, that actually there's a transaction that happened, and you have that as an evidence. You can use it to get a service, or you or get your money when you supply some things to, for example, it could be to government. They tell you to say you get your money after two days or so. What they'll give you is actually not the receipt, but they'll give you a voucher that will actually show your entitlement to go and get the money from them or the bank. So ask for a receipt or invoice whenever you make a payment. It is very important that you ask. Most of the time we just make payments and don't bother to get a receipt or an invoice because we feel it's our own business. And when it comes to actually, when time for being audited comes, that's when you realize and start to begin to run up and down just to ensure that you have your records in place. I remember, I think, having, there's one person who at some point lost the document that was key. I was, I think, about almost 200-300 kilometers away. That person actually made an arrangement to follow me just to come and get that particular receipt, which is actually a simple arrangement that would have been made prior to that scenario. So it is very important that whenever you make a transaction, request for a receipt or an invoice. It is also important that you make a voucher yourself in other cases. If in case that particular person doesn't give you the receipt or the invoice, you can make the voucher yourself. That can enable you actually enter the transaction, and you can use it as a reference point. Managing vouchers. It is very important that keep all vouchers in a safe place, or receipts or whatever document that is key in your business transactions. It is important that you keep them in a safe place, because some people are crooked. They may change the details, and even the people that owes you money, sometimes they may end up stealing the same documents to make you actually not have the sufficient information. Give each voucher a number, which is very important, and also file them in a consecutive number order, so that you are able to know in terms of numbers and also in terms of dates, and also which one comes first and which one comes last. Yeah. So I just want us to look at the daily cash sales record as an example. Okay, I hope you're able to see. Yes, good. So it is important that as you deal with cash sales, you may just create a simple template like this one, for example. And sometimes I think I've seen now people, because we have gone digital, some of them have got automated machines. They'll just put in they'll just actually punch in and all the information will be entered there and give you the receipt. But it is also important that before maybe you get to that level, also it is important that you just create a simple template like this one, which will just show you, for example, the meal key, what was the quantity, the 5, what was the unit price there, the 10, and the total amount. So that at the end of the day, as you close the book, at the end of the day, as you are doing inventory taking, you'll be able to know how much sales you made a day, and that was cash transaction. The other one is actually based on the basic also record book. It is important that you, for example, you've seen there where it is written the date. So the BF is actually just the balance brought forward. It could be today, so the balance brought forward is that of amount that I closed with yesterday. So today, as I start my business, actually, I need to know how much balance do I have. That's the 380 you've seen there. As cash in is 0, cash out is 0, but only the balance. That is for cash at hand. And also when you look at the bank, there are some money that was left also as balance brought forward, which is to 570. It could be dollars, it could be cash in your, depending on your local currency. So it is important that you every day you know how much money you have, cash, and also in the bank. So, for example, if you bought something, I think you saw this person bought timber. It is important that you indicate the number of the receipt where you are going to indicate that that voucher number and for that particular transactions. So when you buy something, of course, that's why it is a cash out, which is 280. And the balance, because if you had money that you closed with like 380 yesterday, today is your cash at hand. If you remove the 340, you only remain with, if you remove the 280, you remain with 100 kwacha's cash balance. So from there, you may end up, if you are in two sales, you may end up selling something. And once you sell something, that will be the cash in. I think you've seen the 98 there. So you add 100 plus 98, you have that cash at hand, which is 198. Equally, that happens with the bank. If, for example, you say, I think you've seen the transaction, the last transaction, this one, which was done on the 18th. It's not everyone that will do the cash when you sell something. Others may do the bank transfer. And once they do the bank transfer, they give you the check and so forth. You may indicate that as cash in, cash in into the bank, and you may add to 570 plus the 24. You have this much, which is 4970 cash in the bank. And if we ask you in terms of assets, current asset versus non-current asset, you find that cash, cash at bank, cash and also money in the bank, when you add them together, that's the money you have. And it is important that you keep. And also there are some instances where you need to, when you receive a check, there are further details that you also include, that you also need to indicate. And that of, for example, the check number, also very important. And also the other one is actually to do with the types. For example, of course, in every business that you are doing, there are certain things like the costs, and these are segregated into two aspects. There's production costs and also non-production costs. For those that are getting grants, that are getting loans to venture into some enterprise, it is important that you categorize these costs into their types. When we looked at, I think the budgets last week, the other day, we are looking at the admin costs. The admin costs, for example, versus ministry. So you need to know how much money went into those aspects. So for example, production, if you are into any kind of production, if you want to produce chickens, if you want to produce, what will I say, the books, for example, it is important that you know for the money that will go into buying the material to produce the books, that's the material cost, for example. And there are certain transactions that you make in terms of maybe the labor. You also need to indicate that. Sometimes those are what we call direct costs, production costs. Those are what we call direct costs. And the non-production costs sometimes are referred to as these, what you are saying, overhead expenses. These are these are indirect costs. For example, when you talk of non-production costs, it could be admin costs, it could be salaries, it could be utilities, bills for water, communications, advertising. Those are overhead expenses. It is important that you also keep that information, so that at some point you'll be able to make some reference. If you ask you how much money did you spend on advertising your product, it is important that you keep that information. How much money did you spend on paying salaries? It is very important. And also, you also need to keep information, for example, for your assets. Like this, you've seen the record equipment costs. It is important that you keep records for your assets as an enterprise or as an NGO. And also, as you keep the assets in your businesses, it is important that you attach the value. Almost every year, you should be able to know how much money, how worth your equipment is, so that even when it comes to disposing your equipment, sometimes we do engage other people to auction the equipment or for your business or organization. So when they come to you to ask you how much, what is the best value for your equipment, it's you actually, not them, to tell them to say the minimum price for this particular equipment is so much. And now you also don't need to just dream to say my asset, I've used it for 10 years, and now because I've used it, so over time it has lost so much value, and now you can sell it at this much. You also need to have this particular documentations. And that's why, for example, you look at what I've put here as an example, the sewing machine. It needs to have the serial number, which is number one, equipment number one, which I bought in 2011, but I never updated the information. So the same equipment that I bought in 2011, for example, and I want to update it, that was for in the year of 2013, it means it has already worked for about 3 years. And the cost of buying this machine was $1,500. The years to be used is actually just maybe 5 years, which you've seen here. So 2011 to 13 years, it has already lost about 3 years. And the depreciation that maybe you have to say on every year, it will actually be losing value with $500. So accumulated depreciation in the year 2013 from 2011, maybe it has lost about 1,500. And the remaining value is actually 1,000 US dollars remaining. And that's why if you come to me to say, sell me this particular machine, I will ask you to say, what is your offer? So if you offer me anything above the 1,000, I'll tell you to take it. If you offer me with something less than 1,000 US dollars, I'll tell you to say, let me wait for some other buyers to put up some offer. And that's how you need to keep your assets. You need to attach the value and know how much value it is gaining or losing. Of course, there's instances where the depreciation becomes very minimal if you're adding value to it. And also records of credit sales. For example, if you sell some of the products, it could be books, it could be whatever items you are selling, depending on the enterprise that you've ventured into. It is important that you need to know, in business, you need to know, if I sell things on credit, what should be the limit in terms of amounts that I should give on credit. Because sometimes if you don't put up a limit, everything will just go and you close your business. So that's why it is important that some of the things you put the limit to it. So you need to have, for example, if myself as Francis, I'm your customer, you need to have a book where I'll be able to indicate, like sometimes even the credit limit, depending on how credible your customer is, you can adjust upward or downward. So for example, if I on that particular date, which is 26th of October, I bought iron sheets on credit, which is maybe 2, the credit sales 200, and also I didn't pay anything. The balance is actually remain the 200, and you should make me sign for it so that in case I'm not there, at least it will be easy for you to follow up, or even the people that will come on board, they'll be able to follow through. In case I die today, they should be able to, instead of just announcing to this person, those people that are owing Francis to voluntarily be able to come out. Some won't come out, but if you have a record like this, it will be very easy to follow up. So you've seen the quantities here, and that we have gotten actually on credit on different dates. And on the 15th of November, I made if this customer made the payment of 500, you should be able to less from the total. The balance due is the 300. And it is also important that you can also be innovative enough. For example, when I get I get a service from you today, you could also create a column where you should be able to indicate to say, okay, when is the due date? By when should I expect this payment to be done? So that someone can commit the date, and you can also be able to write, and like just saying, okay, I will be able. I'll pay you whenever I have resources, or on month end. So it is important that you tie it to a specific date as you do the record keeping. The other actually record keep books that you also need to keep. One of them is actually, for example, the salary register, which is very important, so that you know, you should be able to know that, okay, this is how much money I'm spending under salaries. and it becomes very important as you make certain decisions. So you also should be able to know the detailed costs of, cost records you need to know. Like I mentioned, to say when it comes to costing, to the costs that the company might incur, it is important that you put necessary information to it. Like if you're owing someone, you need to know how much am I owing, who is supposed to receive, and where is the money going to come from? By when should I be able to pay this cost, and where do I get the money? Then also the inventory record is very important. I think that's why I even mentioned something which is not here in the FIFO, first in, first out, and also the LIFO, last in, first out. It's very important, because if you don't keep the records of the inventory that you have in your business, it will be very difficult for you to know which actually asset or which item came in first. And that's the first thing that should go out, or which items actually came last, so that it can be able to go, to go out first. Also, loans record, very important, as others will also be able to look at the reliability. We'll look at it, I think, when it comes to us looking at the balance sheet. It is very important. And also creditors record. It is very important that we also look at the creditors record, not from our head perspective, but also something that we've written down. Tax payable, you also need to know how much you are owing. And if you don't take note of the tax payable, that's why you find that over time your business is just closed up. Yeah. How do you keep the records? Phoebe, as I pause a little bit, how many people have confirmed keeping records on paper from the 33?
We are still at 5.
5,
Sorry,
okay.
3. So 5 responded, 3 have confirmed that they do.
Okay, wonderful. The rest have kept them, actually not, but not on paper. Awesome. Okay. So now I want us to look at how to keep records. It is very simple. One of them is actually paper-based, which is very common, and also odd version or odd way of keeping records. And what are some of the advantages of actually using the paper-based simple records? So paper-based, actually, one of them is very simple. Everyone can do it, even if you don't have a computer and all that. You can still be able to keep records as long as you have any exercise book where you can write down. It also works well with the small and simple businesses. You may not have a lot of cash to actually digitalize your records, so you can use the paper base as long as you're able to know and track your records. The other one is actually the E1 or the online one. So you may use Google, email, OneDrive, among others, to just ensure that your records are well kept. So for this one of the advantages is that it's a very good backup in case your documents get stolen, or you lose them, or they get damaged. With the Google one, the email one, or the internet one, it's very easy to retrieve them. It is also easy to access from anywhere. You don't need to be carrying papers just to access your records. So this one is actually very, very easy. There's also, oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry. Okay. There's also another advantage, which is very portable, which is similar to it being easy. So the last one from my presentation in terms of how you can keep records, they are quite numerous, but I think the major ones that I've highlighted here, the paper one, the internet one, or the online one, is also, apart from the E1, which is Google, email, OneDrive, Teams, you can also use the computer. And one of the advantages with the computer, it's easy to correct. You can just use an Excel sheet to populate certain information, and to be able to give information. So it's easy to find and very quick to find information on the computer. and also automatic calculations like I mentioned if you're using, for example, an Excel sheet. And also is to update if you're using a computer, because you just open up and work on it instead of asking someone to say, bring the bundles. I don't have the bundles, I don't have the connectivity, but with the computer, as long as you have power, you can still easily update the information. So the last part of my presentation is actually, which is part 3, is the use of records. So you may use these records in order to improve your business. As I mentioned, to say record keeping is very, very important in a situation where you want to have generated your business, you have started, and now you want to improve your business ideas. So this will be my last part of this session. Phoebe, we have how many minutes? 45?
We have about three minutes.
Okay, I'll try to be quick as much as possible. So one, the objectives of this part 3 is 1, to use records to manage cash, to use records to manage data, to use records to calculate profit, very important. Also, you may use records to calculate the tax payable, as area alluded to, and also you may use records to create a balance sheet. So how do you manage your cash? So you compare your cash balance record and also money in your cash box. It's very important that you manage, you compare your cash that you have and also versus that of in a cash box or in the bank. So some of the reasons for dispariting as you do the balancing of the cash at the bank, in the box, versus the cash at hand. It could be when you make a mistake while recording the voucher or the receipts. And also you make mistakes when collecting the cash for making payments, or also in counting, and also theft from the cash box, because when you keep money, cash also in the box or in the safe, sometimes they get damaged. And also, how do you manage your data? So use your customer's account book to answer the following questions. For example, I think I mentioned if you have a customer who you have sold things on credit. And also, so you need to have the customer's account book, which is key in business. So how much does the customer owe me? You need to know this, so that even when you are putting things on order, for example, you know when and how much the customer will pay you, so that even when you order things, you know where and how exact money will come. When can I expect to receive the payment from a credit customer? Remember, I said it is important that you also add the column when you expect this particular payment, so that you can plan well. Which customer can I trust based on the record? Because if you don't keep records, you may end up forgetting. So based on the reputation that they have, and also you use reference, the reference point should be the records. You can be able to know that, okay, this particular customer can be trusted. And also the last one is, can I give more credit to a certain customer? Remember there I said it is important that on the credit limit, you can even adjust upward or downward based on the reputation that they have. So how do you calculate your profit? So sometimes you just look at the sales, how much money we raise from the sales, and also you remove the material cost, the labor cost, whatever you get from there will actually be called the gross profit. And then when you remove the fixed costs or the indirect costs or the overhead costs, whatever will remain here is what you call the net profit, which is actually summarized in here in the profit and loss statement. So here just put the figure for sales, the direct costs, it could be input costs, the labor cost. When you remove, you get the gross profit, but because you still need to pay some fixed costs like rentals, utilities, salaries, and so forth, you need to less this, which we are calling overhead expenses, and whatever remain with is what you call the profit. So how do you calculate your tax payable? It is important that you know, okay, you've heard of people, I think, saying pay as you earn. So you need to know, okay, income tax. When I get when I receive an income, how much should I pay as tax? So it will be the tax times the net profit. Whatever remains is what we call, whatever you get is what we call the income tax. because you are just going to this, to multiply the percentage. For example, 3% of 1,000, whatever you get is what you pay as tax. And also, how do you pay for value added tax? For whatever you produce, you get the sales. You need to, whatever you get, you need to multiply it. So, okay, for example, the turnover tax that we normally pay to what we call the tax board here, Zambia Revenue Authority, for example, the DARE. So you need to know how much is supposed to pay to government when you sell certain goods, because it's not everything that will go into your pocket. And also the balance sheet, which is critical as I do the close up for the session. So it is important that you sit down in the business. Remember, I said, let me know how many people have written down in terms of net worth, and also the resolutions or plans for 2022. And at the end of the day, I should be able to tell that, okay, this particular person is worth so much, and that is based upon, because your template of showing me how much worth you are should also be able to show how much money you have, and also how much money you owe others, or how much money is, how much value is for the ability. So whatever remain, which is net worth, I should know that this is how much this particular person is worth. So the template of the balance sheet actually will show you how much your business is worthy, and that's why it is very, very important. It helps you to see how well you manage your resources, how your business over time, and also it has to be tabulated in here. So sometimes when I'm doing valuations, I'll just be able to say, okay, this person is worth so much. So I'll only ask you to say, can you give me the balance sheet? So once you give me the balance sheet, I should be able to know that in terms of asset-wise, this person is worth so much, which is, for example, here, when I add all these, it is 11,730. And when I less the things that are supposed to go out or paid out, or these what we call liabilities, if you are in a negative, then I should know that you are the risk in whatever business that you want to partner with me. Or if we want to get funding and your net worth is actually negative, then I should know that, okay, this particular person is not worth it and take in terms of partnership. And that's why we are saying record keeping is very, very important, because you need to use this one as a reference point. So when you look at the total assets here, 11,720, liabilities is 3,500. I know that even when we sell everything, you will still have a positive balance, which is 8,280. And then if you're asking me to fund you maybe a 208, I should be able to know that this is actually just a small amount. This particular person is very, very actually rich, and also has the capacity. So as I conclude, I just want to make mention that record keeping in every business or any organization is the art, as they can influence the decision positively or negatively whenever you want to make a decision. Hence, accuracy in record keeping is very, very, very important. You regret actually for just missing by a figure. You write 100 instead of 1,000, and where do you get the difference? If you are talking of 100 versus 1,000 US dollars, we are talking of a difference of 900 US dollars. So where do you get the difference 900 of 900? And that's why accuracy becomes very cardinal. And the last point is that to ensure all records of payments, receipts, credit, purchases, assets, and liabilities are safely kept. Nowadays, you can actually keep the same. I think we said paper, you can still scan the paper, put it on email, on Google, and also on the computer. So you can still make use of all the three record keeping platforms to ensure that these records are kept safe. So if you are not able to obtain a receipt for an expense, then ensure that you record the details yourself, and you can use that as a reference point. I think I'll end here so that I can answer the questions for the remaining minutes. Thank you. Team, Phoebe, questions?
All right. Thank you so much for that extensive presentation once again. So as I said in the chat, please post any questions or clarifications that you need. Okay, so the first question I'll be reading out two questions at a time. So the first question is from Victorina. What is the difference between operation cost and production cost? That's from Victorina. And then from Fode, since service companies is not incurring material cost, neither producing, what are basically the costs attributable to service companies?
Okay, maybe the second one, the first one, I think is production versus operation, right? Yeah.
Yes, please.
The second, I think you repeat. So, for example, production cost. I'll give an example. If you want to produce, what will I say, chili, for example, and you need inputs to produce chili. So the amount that you need to buy the chili inputs, for example, the chili seed, the fertilizer, the chemicals, if you want to produce chili, that will be called the production cost. And then once you start, for example, you start the production, there could be costs that may come along the way. In terms as you do the production. So it could be the one that will come in form of labor cost. So labor cost, I can put it, it can fall under the operational costs. If you want to pay someone to supervise the chili, you want to pay someone to do the packaging, the chili, those are what you may call the operational costs. You want someone to transport the chili, those are what you call the operational costs. I think that one maybe I've just used it as an example. I don't know if it is okay. Once you commence the production, and there are certain things that may need to be paid as you do the production, supporting costs, those you may call them operational costs. Then the second one you said, you can just repeat.
So the second one is since service companies is not incurring material. So let me just.
Okay, okay, I see. Yeah, service companies, yes.
Incurring material cost, okay. Neither producing. What are the costs attributed to service companies?
Oh, okay, service companies. For example, if you are offering a consultant, you've gotten a grant to provide consultant service. So the consultant service also may have the costs that are associated to it. For example, if you are also offering, what will I say, apart from maybe consultants. So the costs that will be associated to you in terms of, as you do the consultants, for example, you will need to, for example, if you are a registered company, you need to pay certain things, for example, tax. You may not just operate in isolation. So you also need to pay certain things like tax. You also need to pay certain things like for internet. You also need to pay certain things, for example, if you need to travel. You also need to have a building where the service will be provided. So there is actually no service business or service company that will operate without the cost. So every service, it being software, or even if I mean, what will I say? It could be just capacity building. Those may not call them production, but to some extent, there are certain costs that are associated to that, and you may categorize them in that way. So even if you're offering a service company, there has to be costs associated to that. Unless maybe also, unless the question was to do with how to categorize the costs that are associated with service provision, but the costs are there. One example is that of I've given a tax, the rentals that you need to pay for you to offer a service. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So there's another one, another two questions. When calculating net profit, this is from Augustine. Yes. When calculating net profit of the business, which type of costs you need to consider and which ones have to be excluded? And then the second one is from Fode again. Being that cash sales is an income to a business, can credit sales be considered as income? If not, what is the category record entry?
Okay, maybe I'll start with the first one who was asking to say what are the costs that has to be excluded from is it the net?
Yes, please. So the net profit of the business, which type of cost you need to consider, which ones have to be excluded?
Okay, so for you to get the net profit, I think you've seen what I've shared, I think on this slide, when you are doing the profit and loss. So for example, if you are in a business, you sell something, you need to, whatever you have there is an income, which is actually not all of it is your money. So you need to remove certain things like for the costs that are associated to the direct expenses or direct material, and also things that are associated to labor. Whatever you get is what we are calling a gross profit. Then the gross profit is not your net. You also need to remove certain things like if you are renting something, you also need to pay something like salaries. You need to pay for water. You need to pay for electricity. All those costs, once you remove them, whatever remain, and you are sure that now I don't need to spend any more, whatever you remain with is actually what you call a net profit. The only things that are not supposed to be included on the costs maybe things that has to do with cost. I mean, if you are in business, there are certain things that they will tell you to say, okay, this business that you are doing is tax-free, or this thing something that you want to buy that is actually tax exemption. Maybe those are some of the things that you need to remove. And also maybe sometimes it could be a discount. If you are buying something from me and you budgeted to say, I'll spend this much, then I give you a discount. You may not actually add that to a cost. You can remove the discount from that particular cost. Sure. Then the other one, just, sorry, come again.
Yes, so the other one is saying, being that cash sales are not income, so cash sales is not an income to a business. Can credit sales be considered an income? If no, what is the category record of entry?
The cash sales versus credit sales.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think there someone is saying the cash sales is not an income. No, of course that one is it depends on the type of.
Sorry, let me read that again. It's saying, okay. Being that, so it's saying, thank you so much for your assertive delivery. Being that cash sales is an income to a business. Okay. Can credit sales be considered as income? If not, what is the category record for entry for it?
Okay, so if the cash sales, I think if you remember very well where we are coming from, I had the cash record where we are able to indicate the cash sales on daily basis. And then we also had a credit book where, for example, if I'm owing you, I don't give you the cash you are supposed to enter. So for cash is actually, what will I say? If you receive the cash, of course, that is an income. Then for the credit sales, you are supposed to enter that under the credit book. I don't know if I'll be able to find it here. Okay, so that you know where to enter. So how do you manage your cash? Is it, no, sorry, not on this. So in simple terms, the cash is an income. Yes, you enter it under income, but for the credit, because that one is not yet in, so you need to enter it under the debit, the debtors, the people that owes you money, because you've actually given them or you have supplied them based on the credit. So that one will also fall or be recorded in the record book. But in terms of expected revenue, that one is also something that you can put to say, okay, on credit from my creditors, I'm expecting so much. And when they give you, this will be considered as revenue or as income. So they have to be recorded in the cash book. You enter the cash. In the credit book, also, that's where you can enter the credit card, because that one is not the cash that is readily available.
Okay, thank you. So the last two, one is from Fode and the next one is from James. So it's saying, how do companies calculate goodwill, which is a balance sheet item? And then the second one is, what is overhead expense and is it necessary to budget for this in your grant application?
How do companies calculate the balance sheet?
How do companies calculate goodwill, which is a balance sheet item?
Oh, okay. It's very easy. Even as a company, there are certain things, especially if you're, what will I say, if it is a limited company where the business and the owner actually are two different. So as a company, there are certain things that you also have in terms of assets that are recorded in the name of a company. I think you've seen this in the name of a company. So when we say, for example, I think if you're able to see this, So when we say assets for the company, it could be cash. How much money is for the company? So the money that is meant for the company is what you can put here to say this is cash for the company, not for employees. So the accounts receivable, these are the people, the amount, like someone who is talking of the credit sales. If the company is expecting some money from the creditors, you can put it here under accounts receivables. And also inventory here, you need to put, for example, if you have goods that you are selling, but they are still in stock, you need to put a value to it. Say, okay, the company still had some cement which is unsold, worth so much. Then if you have a building, you need to value it. If you have tractors, you have equipment, office equipment, you can value them and put here as money for the company or for the organization. When you have the total here, this is what the company has, not things that belong to the individuals that work for the company, but things that are registered in the company name. And also you need to know how much money is the company owing that they need to pay out. How much tax do the company also need to pay? How much loan is also pending for the company to pay? And when you total it, you less this minus this. Whatever you remain with is actually money that belongs to the company in terms of net worth. Then there's also one who is asking about whether it is important to include the overhead expenses in the proposal. This is very, very critical and very important, because even the people that are giving you grants, they need to know how the business will be operationalized. So they need to know how much money in terms of structure, how many people will be brought on board to implement this particular business or enterprise, and how much money will go towards towards the implementation of that particular project. So things, the overhead expenses, it would be admin costs like salaries. That one definitely you need to do that. Remember, I think from the last presentation that I made the other day, I was talking of the person project where I said I'll need to get maybe, for example, a vet person to come and actually help me. I also need to employ security guards to take care of the goats. I also need to employ the manager to take care of the goats. So when you look at the security costs, the money that I'll pay security personnel is actually an overhead cost. The money that I will need to pay when I hire, while taking care of the goats at the quarantine center, even the money that you pay, for example, if you are in, it could be in a service business, any type of business, the money that will pay apart from the production costs or the direct costs is an indirect cost. You really need to budget for it, so that we know, okay, in this particular proposal, how much money is going direct to inputs, how much money is going towards inputs, and how much money will be needed in order to supplement the admin. If you say, okay, I'll start the business, then from the sales, if I start the business, I'll start with the minimum admin cost, which is an overhead cost. Then as we go on, we'll be able to sell some of the produce, or the company will be able to start making profits. So it will be able to plow back some of the expenses into the business. And this will help me actually cater for certain overhead costs or fixed costs. And now these things that I'm mentioning, for example, can come in for example, the pitch sessions, or when you are defending or presenting the proposal to say, okay, we have seen that you budgeted little amounts under admin or overhead costs. How do you think you'll be able to manage and sustain your business if you don't put much money on the admin aspect? That's where now you can bring in those aspects of saying, now, because I know I've projected that the sales actually maybe in the next 2-3 months, I'll begin to sell, and some of the profits is actually going to be plowed back into business and minimize the operational cost. So in simple terms, overhead costs or fixed costs are very key, because we need to know how you are going to be supported, and they are very key in order because we are not going to implement the budget from the vacuum. So we need to expect the overhead costs to come out properly, clearly, and also very viable. And also you need to know that if you are doing a business which is viable, the 80-20 is very important. The admin cost or the overhead cost should be within the 20% compared to the operational funds or the ministry funds, which is the 80%. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are the only questions that we have. So we'll end here. Just to give a vote of thanks to the presenter. Thank you so much, Francis, for being thorough in the presentations, both in the part 1 and part 2. And to the attendees, I wanted to thank you for your engagement. You are very engaged. You are asking questions. And then just a reminder to register for the pitch presentation, which will take place in the last week of the last week of the academy. But then if you want to participate, you need to register by tomorrow, end of business tomorrow, that is 30th September. So before we go, Francis, did you have anything to say?
Nothing really, just to thank the participants, and also glad to see that they are asking questions that are building one another, and they are of great importance, especially that these people, I'm fully aware that some of them graduates and also they want to join the business industry. So I just want to encourage you that as you join the business industry, then to consult, and you face a lot of challenges along the way, and that should not actually demotivate or discourage you, but that should actually be used as a reference point in terms of learning, because once you face challenges in businesses, it will help you to learn and also help you to adjust until you get your desired course. So you fail 10 times, the 11th one, you'll be able to make it and move to the next level. So in entrepreneurship, actually, or in business world where we are, as you do the business, remember to be innovative. You need to be innovative in order to remain competitive in the society. So let's keep pushing and keep learning. Thank you so very much.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And with that, I would like to end the session. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you in the next week when we tackle another presentation. Thank you.